Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Layman's Law School, where two Southern gentlemen lawyers, in this case, sit around and discuss the legal issues of the day. And today I'm here with Shawn Merzlak, and we are going to continue what we did last time. I don't know if you saw last time, but I made the case for the fact that Donald Trump actually engaged in or aided or gave comfort to insurrectionists. And today Shawn's going to present the other side. But before we do that,
we're going to,
celebrate the fact we're not having a Bud Light.
That's right. And there's no Bud Light.
Yeah.
Reed is absent again. He's taking a brief sabbatical. I don't know if he's had enough of us or he's had enough of, or he doesn't want to be involved in this topic.
Oh, well, yeah, I know he's a house divided. And so
correct.
This is
correct.
He might be being the diplomat here,
But as Chace indicated, we did, we tried to discuss, or we're trying to discuss, the various arguments for whether or not Donald Trump committed or aided in an insurrection, and we're speaking of the January 6th, essentially the riots that happened at our United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. And last week, Chace gave some very good arguments regarding why one could, use the information available to show that, well, yes, Trump was inciting insurrection and aiding, at least, in the incitement of insurrection. And today we're just going to give a little bit of information on some arguments that nothing that Donald Trump did was even close to aiding an insurrection, and kind of some hypocrisies that we see throughout history, and why everything that we watch, whether or not, doesn't matter what television channel you are watching or what news source you're getting it from, you have to think of what is behind that. What is the agenda of that particular news source? It used to be where, when the internet was very early, we could look up actual information on the internet. If you wanted to figure out how to do something and you put that, you didn't Google it back then. You got on some, American Online, Alta Vista or something, and you put in
AOL.
How to do this. And you would probably find good information on somebody who had an instruction, guide on how to do that particular task or information on that particular subject. And now with the age of the internet, you pull up, you ask for a particular thing. Everything is just wanting to sell you something that is similar. Or if you pull up, you try and pull up something about, the January 6th riots. There's no middle of the road there.
Sure.
Every post is, how Donald Trump is an insurrectionist and, needs to be prosecuted to the fullest, to, some that say absolutely Donald Trump didn't incite any insurrection and everything. So, and all those things are being pushed and, by people that have their own political views, political beliefs, and way that they want our country to go. So just keep in mind, we're trying to give you an instance of why there's, two arguments to every side. And that's what we as lawyers do, is when we have a case, we try and look at not only what the strengths of our case are, but also what the weaknesses are, what the strengths of the opposing party's case is. That way we can give good objective advice to our clients about, what's the best course of action, what's the best strategy for this particular type of case. So in getting into the insurrection, let's remind everybody what we agreed on. The definition of insurrection was, what was it?
It was basically an organized use of force to try and overthrow the government. Right.
Organized.
Yeah, organized, right? Okay. And then you had to either aid, comfort, or engage in. And engage, aid, comfort, using the everyday language understanding, Webster's dictionary of those words, what it means to engage in. So
sure. And what I'm going to attempt to do is give you some information on why in no way, shape, or form did Trump aid, engage in, assist in, anything like that in an insurrection.
Yeah, so before we start, I want to remind everybody, the thing I started off with, my argument was the big lie, that he had created this big lie that the election was stolen. Now, why is that not right? this? In other words, why is it not unusual in a situation like this?
It's not unusual because the big lie has been perpetrated for years by both sides, whether it's Democrat, Republican. One of the most recent ones, we had here in Georgia was the candidate for the Democratic side of the governor, Stacey Abrams, and all that was about was that the election was stolen from her. That even called people. Refused to say that a person is legitimately elected, things like that. Hillary Clinton, had massive things to say about the election being stolen from her and that Russian interference was involved in the election and things like that. And now, because it was Donald Trump who said it, all of a sudden the media has a tirade on him, calling him an insurrectionist, that any of these views that are against the electoral process have to be him saying this big lie that he knows is false, that he should know is false, and shouldn't be inciting this. So
somehow knew that it would have the effect of
causing a riot,
right?
Or an insurrection.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the standard that we're being held to here.
That's right. Exactly.
We can all agree that there was
a riot.
There was a protest that turned violent and turned into a riot.
Right.
But does it amount to an insurrection? And did Donald Trump have anything to do with
organizing, engaging, aiding, and all that?
Sure.
Yeah. For those of you that don't believe, we can go to the next clip. Don't believe the fact about that this is a common thing for people to claim election fraud. People have a very short memory and media, as far as it's a 24-hour media cycle, but we have some footage here that'll remind you of some of the things that were said in some past elections by people on the opposite side of Donald Trump's party. If you'll go to the next one.
Really is that when Republican candidates for office claim an election is stolen or that the winner is illegitimate, it constitutes inciting an insurrection, and the candidate should know it. But Democratic Party candidates for public elective office are perfectly entitled to claim the election was stolen, or that the winner is illegitimate, or to make any other outrageous claim they can. It is their absolute right to do so. And it is their absolute right to do so, irrespective of whether there's any evidence to support the claim. Democratic candidates can claim that an election was stolen because of Russian collusion, or without any explanation at all. And that is perfectly okay, and is in no way incitement to an insurrection. And somehow, when Democratic candidates publicly decry an election as stolen or illegitimate, it's never a big lie. You've been doing it for years.
But can you imagine telling your supporters that the only way you could possibly lose is if an American election was rigged and stolen from you? And ask yourself whether you've ever seen anyone at any level of government make the same claim about their own election.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear. I say that publicly. It's clear.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you. He knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. Votes remain to be counted. There are voices that were waiting to be heard. And I will not concede.
And I respect where you're coming from, and I respect the issues that you're raising. You're not answering the questions. Do you think it was...
You're not
using the word legitimate.
There are still legitimate concerns over the integrity of our election.
2005.
Principle of one person, one vote.
I agree with tens of billions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail to record that vote.
But constantly shifting vote tallies in Ohio and malfunctioning electronic machines, which may not have paper receipts, have led to additional loss of confidence by the public. This is their only opportunity to have this debate while the country is listening, and it is appropriate to do so.
Well, just seeing that 2005 video of Nancy Pelosi just reminds me that, we all need to do what we can for our bodies because time hadn't been good to her. It's 19 years later, and time hadn't been good to her.
Yeah, well, and I know it's a tough job and everything, but at the same time, what you should see there is a bit of double speak. You know what I mean? You see people that are making the same exact argument and claiming that Trump, because people actually followed through and tried to there was a riot, there was a mob that lost control, right? After he spoke, because they were moved by whatever he said, right? That it was just unlucky, not unlucky, but they were lucky in that no one was moved by what they said, right?
Well,
otherwise, they could be charged with the same thing.
The thing is, though, that even when Donald Trump was elected the first time, there was riots in the streets in some of these cities. So at the same time that Hillary Clinton is, claiming that the election was stolen from her and things like that, there's riots in the streets of many, left-leaning or Democratic, type places. So is she responsible for that? Did she, because it didn't happen at the state capitol, is it not an insurrection, but she incited some other type of violence or riot? Nothing that, any of these, or nothing that Donald Trump said was a call to violence. Right. And that's or a call to organization for violence or the overthrowing of the government or, stopping the actual election process. It was a push for the leaders who are in the House and for Mike Pence to hopefully do what Donald Trump wanted him to do.
And to put in what the electors that he thought were, unlawfully slated. Sure. And he said so much in his speech. If you would go to the next clip. So this is at the ellipse.
Do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated.
Okay, and I don't know if you can remember a time in history when somebody else made that argument.
It's been made. Yeah, absolutely. When Donald Trump won the presidency, right, there was many people who were calling for certain states' electoral votes to not count whatsoever, and it was a different, it was kind of a different animal back then too, because Hillary Clinton had actually won the popular vote for president, sure, but Donald Trump won the electoral vote and was
electoral college.
College.
Yeah. And then I think the next clip we have is those same people that are claiming Donald Trump was an insurrectionist were the same people that wanted only the lawful electors actually slated.
Claim that it's wrong to object to the certification of election results. You, along with your allies in the media, attempted to cancel and censor members of this chamber who voiced concerns and objected to certification. Manager Raskin, you've been in Congress only 3 days when you objected in 2017. It's one of the first things you did when you got here.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
Is an objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator. Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral vote was not...
No debate.
I object to the certificate from the state of...
We should have noticed the date here. January 6, 2017. Everything that Donald Trump has said so far is exactly what these members are doing on the same date, around the same time that that Donald Trump was becoming president.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama. The electors were not lawfully certified.
Making the same argument.
Same argument over and over, but it is good to see Joe Biden actually doing things properly.
Well, it was good to see Mike Pence do things properly.
Sure,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were defending the Constitution as it should have been.
The objection is in writing, and I don't care that it is not signed by a member of the Senate.
Well, she should.
I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter of
There's no problem with passionately arguing your point.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's what our political system is for.
Right.
We believe that more speech, not less speech,
it's better.
is what sparks debate, what makes innovation, what makes change.
Yeah.
The world of ideas is where we want to live, and that's where I can change your mind, you can change my mind.
Yeah.
Or I cannot agree with you, but change my view somewhat, that more aligns with you, even though I don't agree with you because of things that you've said. And that's what, debate is all about.
So if we'll go to the next one. So one of the things that we talked about it a lot before is what the lead up to it and the letting everybody know what we're about to do kind of thing.
And that, Donald Trump was, just had the militia groups ready, willing, and able. And I'm sure that, amongst all this investigation that's been done, there's been a significant amount of evidence of his backdoor dealings with these different militia groups, emails, telephone calls, text messages to these militant groups, that this is what's going to occur, right?
Right, to organize it.
To organize this.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing like that whatsoever.
No.
And, this is, like you said, this is where Donald Trump was speaking in Washington, D.C. Before the breach of the Capitol.
Yeah. And what we're looking at here are some tweets, okay, that went out in the lead up to it. And I want you to notice the language in there, right? Pro-Trump rallies, all right? There's nothing about revolution, insurrection, right, takeover, or anything like that. This is a rally. And this one down here, this December 19th, it will be wild. I don't know if you've ever watched a Donald Trump rally or been to one.
They're all wild.
Yeah.
They've been wild for years. That's not saying that it's going to be a wild, violent action.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that's the way it's been used, right? But that's the danger of policing speech in this way and trying to hold somebody
responsible,
criminally responsible,
using things out of context or believing that you have the context correctly when you
knowing
don't.
the intent.
Sure.
Right. So that's just what we wanted to demonstrate here. Go to the next slide, if you would. So again, these are more slides. January 1st, January 3rd. What we have here. This is stuff that he tweeted and actually I think retweeted. So
he's calling for a protest rally in Washington, D.C. Nothing about a coup or a government overthrow. January 3rd, just days before, he's retweeting, if you're planning to attend a peaceful protest in D.C. on the 6th, I recommend wearing a body camera. Nothing about...
Yeah, if you're attending the peaceful protest.
Correct.
Okay, and I wondered, let's just say, for instance, Mike Pence had said, you know what, there's some questions about these electors. I'm not certifying these results.
There would have been protesters there.
But you think that they would have just said, they would have I think that they would have just said, he did the right thing. We're fine.
There would have been speech saying that, this is a fraud, that we need to fight like hell to make sure that we get what we want.
On the other side,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is he's trying to actually put speech out there to influence politically what is done. Right.
Sure.
Yeah. He's not telling people to go and hang Mike Pence or any of that stuff.
Correct.
He's trying to influence using his words, calling for rallies. So you can go to the next line. So that when we're looking at these, we see rally, we see protest, peaceful, wild. This is, like I said, the hardly language for revolution.
I wonder if that sweet lady right there was, one of the people that, committed
Storm the Capitol.
Tortious acts of violence and storm the Capitol.
Yeah, she is wearing the veterans cap there, but at the same time, she does not look like a militant for the most part. So I think this next slide, and me and Shawnee worked together on this, and we put this together. We were talking when I showed my side, I showed. The
militants and the Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys. That's who it is, right? Yeah, the far right of the right, right? And so, but that's not who was there in force. So, what could have Trump seen that day?
Well, we're seeing exactly what he saw. The individuals that are at the ellipse when he is speaking.
Yeah. Go to the next one.
and he is, explaining his side of what he thinks is going on with the election, explaining to them that we need to continue, to protest and march and make our voices heard peacefully. These are the people that he's looking at.
Yeah.
In the actual ellipse, why he's giving the speech, I don't see anybody wearing a animal skull or hat. I don't see any of these individuals that are wearing body armor or
guns,
black face mask, over their face or anything like that.
Yeah, this is virtually indistinguishable from any other Trump rally that I've ever seen. There's people's grandmothers here, aunts, uncles, people from different ages across the board.
Well, and I can imagine that most of these people who are here, who are watching that speech, were not the people that went to the Capitol and actually entered through the guard lines and went inside and did, vandalism and, or any type of violence. That's just the thing. There's a small sector of people unorganized by anything that, Donald Trump was doing that chose to do those.
Right. Yeah. Go to the next one. We're talking about what he saw there. There's a group of supporters here on the right that actually are praying together outside of the ellipse. And you look to the left there, these are grandpas. Okay. When he's giving a speech and he's thinking, it's like, yeah, these are my militants that are going to storm the Capitol. Guys that are holding hands and praying about, hoping that this happens.
These unarmed individuals in their late 70s.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Keep going to the next one. So I just want you to notice, these are the people that he saw. So when you're thinking about the intent of the person, what he thinks is actually going to occur when he's done speaking and they go protest, I think what these pictures, these images, these human beings that he saw matter.
Absolutely. That's the context of his speech and the people that he was actually speaking to.
Go to the next one. If we look on the left there, you got a lady that looks like she's in her 70s. She's sitting down. Okay, all right. She's not looking to storm any barricades anytime soon. And this was back in. You see people with masks on or things covering their face. This was
2020.
Yeah. Well, this is 2021, but it was between 30 and 40 degrees out there, and they've been standing out there for hours to come and see him speak. So is why you might see masks. These are just looks like everyday average Americans. Go to the next one. Again, this is this could be your sister, your aunt. Like I said, these are people that are there to support the person that they think is rightfully the president. Keep going. And this is a young man, probably 16 years old, in a bow tie with a MAGA hat on.
Sure.
And this could be any one of my, nieces or nephews that are out there sitting at this place. And so when I made my argument, I showed you Antifa, or not Antifa, but I showed you
you probably showed us Antifa. That was a Freudian
slip.
Freudian slip.
There you go.
You probably did.
Maybe
Antifa and maybe some government actors in there, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. So, but the context, like you said, the context matters, right?
Well, the context matters, and the way in which media portrays the context to all of us matters, because these photos that Chace just had on the slideshow, that's not the photos that were running 24/7 during this time period. The photos and videos that were running
the most salacious.
Were the most salacious, the ones that show the most horrid acts, because that's how the media works. That's what they want to show. That's what they want everyone to believe, that the entire Washington, D.C. was overrun by these militants type things, when it's a couple 100 people that stormed the Capitol. What do they end up, charging? 1,000 people total?
Total. Yeah. And so, this is another thing. You're talking about like the person preparing to take over the government and has called his people there to commit this insurrection. This is him preparing Trump to speak to the people who he's going to rabble-rouse into a insurrection. You can go ahead and play that one. Is that Gloria Gaynor?
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Gloria.
I don't know. That doesn't seem like the Situation Room to me.
Absolutely not. And the videos that he's watching, the videos he's watching is showing that same crowd that we just showed you.
Yeah. These guys are just watching the crowd, watching the speakers that come before. And this is, of course, phone footage from Junior, right? But this does not appear to be a bunch of guys that are. It seems to be guys at a political rally.
Sure,
That are getting ready.
They're going to tell their side
people.
of the story and
Exactly.
promote, their whatever they think the truth is. Definitely not people that are getting ready, for these 7-year-old grandpas to pull out their weapons that they did not have,
Right.
and overthrow the United States government.
Were this my intent, okay, to do this, right? I wouldn't have backstage footage of anything
Sure.
going on back there, right? And I would definitely wouldn't be partying, listening to stuff and whatever.
Sure.
I'd be nervous and worried about what was about to happen. All right, you can go to the next one there.
Put it for you. This is the Associated Press. Goes to every small newspaper in the country. The mob got explicit marching orders from Trump, and still more encouragement from the president's men. Unquote. So the mob was told by Trump, go down to the Capitol, destroy it. That's what the Associated Press is putting out. But here are the president's exact words last Wednesday while speaking to the quote-unquote mob. Go.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country. Our country.
Now that is exculpatory.
So yeah,
It's
you asked me that to be included. What are we seeing there?
because what we see is that the media and the Associated Press can print whatever they want
That's right.
with no regard for unless it's an absolute defamatory statement, or slanderous. They can print whatever they want. They don't have to have a source, don't have to reveal their sources. And then you find me evidence that supports that the mob got their marching orders from Donald Trump. It's an absolute false statement, but that is what is, portrayed on certain media outlets and picked up by all media. It's the Associated Press. Any media outlet can pick it up. When we look at what actually occurred, and all he's asking for is a march to the Capitol to peacefully protest, make our voices heard. That happens across America and in cities everywhere.
Yeah.
You go to Washington, D.C. any day of the week, there is people out there protesting at the White House, at the Capitol, holding up signs for whatever their issue, whatever their agenda is. I've been to Washington, D.C. several times. I've never been there when there wasn't some type of
Somebody protesting. Somebody doing
absolutely.
something.
There's just groups that are there every single day. And he calls for a march to the Capitol,
Make your voices
peacefully,
heard.
make our voices heard. So how you can say that those are marching orders to the mob to start a insurrection, I don't see it, whatsoever.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
You can go to the next one there. And see here, use of the word fight. So a lot of hay was made last time when I made the argument.
That's the marching orders I think that they're referring to.
Right. So how does that not hold weight? If I say he used fight, a bunch of times.
Because it's just the context. If I'm coaching a kid's football team, or let's not say kids, let's say high school, late high school kids, and we're in the final game, and I say, we're going to go out there, we're going to fight like hell and win this thing. And late in the fourth quarter, the kids end up getting in a fist fight on the field.
Taking their helmets off, beating each other.
Is that because I incited them to actually physically fight? No, I was telling them we're gonna fight. And the thing about it is that those words are used all the time. We're going to fight to win an election. We're gonna fight until we get this bill passed. We're gonna do all this, but it's only when a certain side uses it, they can use that as ammunition to say that, oh, this is what he was saying. He was inciting an insurrection by using these words. But when it's used in the past, even amongst when there is social unrest and riots going on, those other people have no responsibility whatsoever.
Yeah, if we can go to the next clip.
The House managers spoke about rhetoric, about a constant drumbeat of heated language. Well, as I'm sure everyone watching expected, we need to show you some of their own words.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
And you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to...
Yeah.
Well, this is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
And there's more.
I promise to fight every single day. One, I'm a fighter and I'm relentless, but I'm a fighter and I'm relentless. A fighter and I'm relentless. I will fight like hell.
But the way I see it now is that we pick ourselves up and we fight back. That's what I think it's all about. We stand up and we fight back. We do not back down. We do not compromise, not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You can either lie down, you can whimper, you can pull up in a ball, you can decide to move to Canada, or you can stand your ground and fight back. And that's what it's about. We do fight back, but we are going to fight back. We are not turning this country over to what Donald Trump has sold. We are just not. Look, people are upset and they're right to be upset.
Now we can whimper, we can whine, or we can fight back. Me, I'm here to fight back. I'm here to fight back because we will not forget. We do not want to forget. We will use that vision to make sure that we fight harder, we fight tougher, and we fight more passionately than ever. We still have a fight on our hands. Fight hard for the changes Americans are demanding. Get in the fight, to winning the fight, fighting. He's fighting. We'll use every tool possible to fight for this change. We'll fight to fighting hard. Serious about fighting and fight. We got to get on our front foot and fight back.
Insurrectionist.
Right. Yeah. I think you can stop it there.
I'm in this fight.
I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And it just shows you that, no one who viewed these particular videos at the time was of the belief that Senator Warren was asking her constituents to actually physically commit violence against somebody else in order to, get their political position back in power. Some of those were even worse. People calling for Donald Trump to be killed. Things like that.
Put a bullet in him.
But the political rhetoric and speeches are used to fire your supporting party up.
Sure.
When you're telling people that we need to fight like this, that means you're telling your people that they need to spread the gospel, so to speak, to convince other people that their particular agenda, their particular candidate or political party is the right way.
Sure.
No one takes these people at face value that fight means we're actually going to physically cause violence.
I want you to go somewhere and cause violence.
Correct.
Right? And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but you saw the same words and the same set of words coming out of the same person's mouth at a television interview. And then you saw it at a stump speech, and then you saw it at a political rally.
Sure.
I got news for you folks. They don't write new speeches, okay, for every single thing that these people do. Okay, you go to one town, you say the same thing there as you say there. And I have a feeling that they might have wrote some new stuff for this January 6th rally or whatever, but then sprinkled in, those guys were doing a lot of copy and paste from his old speeches and stuff like that. And then they didn't think about, what if we have some militants out there that lose their freaking minds, right? Are we all going to jail for being insurrectionists? I think that needs to be taken into consideration when you can just watch what happened there. So these people are just repeating themselves, and they're using normal everyday language to talk about a particular thing that you talk about, like you say, like in a coach telling his kids to fight in a game.
Sure.
Common.
Yeah, Kirby Smart, University of Georgia, telling the football players that we're going to go out there and whip some ass. We're going to kill them. Yeah, we're going to kill them today.
Yeah, put them in the ground.
That has to do with football.
Sure,
that doesn't have to do with we're actually going to go out and cause physical violence to these people.
And it's part of the reason why we have so many protections about freedom of speech, especially when in the political realm. So all that needs to be taken into account when we're thinking about what happened that day. If you'll go to the next clip there.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country.
So that was where he kind of ended his speech, and then
got in the car.
Yeah.
We're out of here.
Yeah, because I made a lot of hay last time about sort of
timeline and what he knew and when he knew it.
Right.
And that's what I kind of said, is that we have no idea actually what he is watching. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you have, there's people who are supposedly witnesses, or who are witnesses who were told something by somebody else, which we can, always get into the hearsay aspects of that and how reliable that is. But this is a busy day. Any day as a president is a busy day. Being rushed to and fro everywhere, to have a understanding of what he knew at the time, what he was watching at the time, is just like us assuming that, at the Ellipse, he was speaking to all these militants.
Sure.
No, we showed you who he was speaking to.
Right, and what he saw. So, it shows from, this is, again, now from the January 6th inquiry, that the motorcade leaves around 1:17. So I can't imagine that a motorcade getting from the Ellipse is too far to the White House. But then again, this is the president. Okay, he's, got the Secret Service around him. And some of the things that I talked about last time apparently occurred in the dining room of the White House. So I think the actual barricades or the Capitol was breached right around 2:00, right?
Sure.
So I don't know how long it takes him to get from the Ellipse into the motorcade to the White House, into the dining room, turn the TV on, what channel he's watching, what he's seeing, what part of the thing he's seeing, because there was actually a lot of different footage, a lot of different coverage of what occurred there that day. Different news channels. So we don't know what he saw. If you'll go to the next one. So this is some of the footage that was actually shown on TV from January 6th. This is part of the insurrection.
And these people right here have illegally breached the Capitol. This isn't just a regular tour where they're walking around with their signs.
Right, yeah, this is part of the insurrection, and so and this is part of the news coverage of the insurrection. This is a guy that
look at all the guns.
That noticed that there wasn't enough room for folks. He's moving the little thing over. The Capitol Police aren't worried about them moving it over. They just move it over. They don't kick it over or go running around wherever they want. So, was Trump watching this? At what point would you say, okay, I'm not, they're just going in there and I told them want to make their voice heard. It looks like Capitol Police is letting them in.
Sure.
What's the issue? Yeah.
I wouldn't have any issue with it.
All right, go ahead, go to the next one. Now, I think this is footage from Jordan Klepper. This is from the Daily Show. And I don't know if you can hear it or whatever, but there's some interesting things that go on. This is, like I said, this is after the speech, prior to the anything occurring like breaching the Capitol or anything like that. But again, there's nothing here that would give me pause. We're out of the president. Now, we've gone over some barricades. That would have bothered me some.
It definitely would have bothered me. Absolutely.
Yeah. But would I say that this is something that justified an amendment to the Constitution that would exclude any one of these people from serving in the, serving their country in any way?
Absolutely not.
Look at you guy there is about to assault the Capitol with his bike.
No one got stabbed with a pitchfork, to my understanding.
No. So this guy in the background, this is funny to me. He says, "We pay for the heat." Yeah,
they're cold.
Let's go inside.
They just want to go inside the Capitol because they're cold.
And we got a guy on a Segway here. So again, like I said, that you don't necessarily know exactly what Trump's seeing. Is he looking out his window and seeing this versus seeing what's on MSNBC? You know, all right, this is an insurrection. People are having a conversation outside the Capitol like this.
It's the party of gentlemen's. I mean, obviously.
All this stuff has to be put into context, and you have to think about it, about what could have happened, what he could have seen, what he was actually hoping for. It to be enough to change the minds of senators and of Mike Pence that day.
Absolutely. I mean,
just go to the next one. Yeah, that one's the famous, some sort of shaman. Again, this is footage from the same day. Being escorted around, being arrested, escorted out by Capitol Police. So I showed you a bunch of the salacious video that they've been putting out a whole bunch. And I like this one because apparently he didn't like the umbrella stand there. There's one guy that just was so upset, he comes over and kicks the umbrella stand over. He had enough. Couldn't stand it.
Ugh.
Yeah. Insurrection.
It really is context, and this really is understanding, what Donald Trump knew when he knew it. But it all still boils down to, there's a lot of arguments for Donald Trump should have done more. Mm-hmm. Once he understood that this was going on, he should have done more. Mm-hmm. And maybe I don't disagree with some of that. Mm-hmm. But to call it that he was the person that organized this insurrection, engaged or aided to these insurrectionists, to call this an insurrection at all, they're not trying to overthrow anything. This is a few bad apples who are causing mischief and mayhem.
Things got out of control. Yep. You can go to the next part. Yeah, so like when you talk about I should have done something, right? There is a timeline for when he actually started to intervene. So this is about an hour and 15 minutes after he left the ellipse, right? And
sure.
Apparently that time he'd seen enough. And what does he tell his supporters?
The Capitol Police are on our side. Police support law enforcement. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful.
Right.
10 minutes after that, 3:13 p.m. I'm asking everyone at the U.S. Capitol remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order, which is funny because he has always, for his entire 4 years of presidency, he has, kind of had that mantra that we are the party that goes by the book, and things of that. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you.
Yeah. And there can be questions about whether this was late or not.
Sure.
Okay. But to say somebody that somebody that's doing this part of it, right, to give aid or comfort to or engage in an actual insurrection within an hour of some of this stuff happening, you're trying to figure out what's going on, whether you're in front of a TV or not, whether you've seen, Capitol Police being beat up or not. Okay.
Doesn't even come close to the level of aiding, abetting, engaging in, assisting, comforting the enemy, any of those terms that they like to use, when it comes to whether or not the President Trump was guilty of an insurrection.
And eventually, I think he actually did come on TV to actually talk to his supporters there, the ones that aren't on Twitter, I guess. The grandpas that probably.
Well, and that's what, these
you can get to the next
these tweets, I still get that. All these people that are walking through here, and we watched a bunch of your videos the last time. No one there is sitting there looking at Twitter. The only people I saw with their phones out are sitting there videotaping this event that they're participating in. So to say that an instantaneous tweet would have been received by all these people would have said, the big D man said it's time to go home. We got to leave is kind of, not realistic.
Yeah, the guy that used the bathroom on Nancy Pelosi's desk, I'm not sure he would have, stopped mid.
Probably not.
Yeah. But this is eventually what he was able to do.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election. And everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
Yeah. So I think that was basically the end of that convinced everyone at the Capitol to go home. And I think it was pretty much over. They got in control of the Capitol at that stage anyway.
They convinced everybody to put down their arms, that we had not succeeded in overthrowing the government. So we were essentially waving the white flag. Obviously, he still had, his political rhetoric in it. He sounded just like Hillary.
Trump does not give an inch
but
ever.
He sounded just like Hillary Clinton. He sounded just like Stacey Abrams. Still not refusing to accept, what he believes is correct. But then telling them, go home, remain peaceful. This is not, how things are done. I love you, but go home.
Right. And I think it's important to know in this particular context too that this thing was kind of argued and weighed in a public forum. And I know there's not a lot of people out there that like C-SPAN too much.
Sure.
But
well, what I heard about so much, which is really a Republican argument, is that if Trump had incited insurrection or been a part of an insurrection, well, then he would have been charged with an insurrection, and he hasn't been. And none of these other people who have been arrested and charged were ever charged with insurrection. So how could he be removed from a presidential ballot in some state for insurrection?
Right.
And that's wrong. He was. His second impeachment, the only article of impeachment was based on the insurrection.
Right.
So he was impeached by the House, which is simply, it's like an indictment.
Whoever controls the House.
Whoever controls the House says this is the charge. and then they have a trial in the Senate.
And the Senate convicts or acquits.
And what was the result of that? After investigations, evidence being presented, what was the result of that?
I can't remember. You just go to the next one. I think it was read out at one point, but
the yeas are 57. The nays are 43. 2/3 of the senators present not having voted guilty. The Senate judges that the respondent, Donald John Trump, former President of the United States, is not guilty as charged in the article of impeachment. The presiding officer directs judgment to be entered in accordance with the judgment of the Senate as follows. The Senate, having tried Donald John Trump, former President of the United States, on one article of impeachment exhibited against him by the House of Representatives, and 2/3 of the senators present not having found him guilty of the charge contained therein, it is therefore ordered and adjudged that the said Donald John Trump be, and he is hereby acquitted of the charge in said article.
So he was charged with insurrection through the impeachment process.
Well, he was impeached.
He was acquitted.
Mhm.
And what is interesting, at least from a criminal law aspect, is that in order to be convicted of a criminal offense, you have to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Sure.
In a jury trial, in most states at least, that is a unanimous verdict. So all the jurors have to agree.
Okay.
In this particular case, that not even 2/3 of the Senate, which is all that's required, agreed that he had committed this particular act and was subject to conviction for this impeachable offense.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. It's more interesting as or troubling, I guess, would be the word rather than interesting. The way that our political process is moving these days. All these things set a dangerous precedent for, whenever the next party is in power, what they will be doing to try and thwart any, rival that has a good chance of winning an election against them. What lengths will they go through to exploit, the legal process that is in place, and try to, take things that are out of context, use them against a person. The media only play certain sides of things so that a large majority of the population who only sees that particular side of it thinks that this is what occurred. And it doesn't matter which side you're on. I mean, it would be the same thing if we were talking about some huge scandal that involved Joe Biden.
Sure.
Me and you would be able to pick out the same thing. You would be able to pick out arguments that say,
and a bad side.
say, no, Joe Biden did not do this. Or I would be able to pick out things that said, no, this is the evidence that shows that Joe Biden did not do this. And you would be able to pick out things that said, well, no, here's evidence that shows to the contrary. And it's looking through things in that filter and knowing that we're not always getting the whole truth from either side. That is important.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things you should take away from this is that, I don't know if you saw my argument that I made before, right? But I seemed pretty passionately on one side, right?
Sure.
And then I came right back in here, right? And I could, I work with you on this.
Sure.
Talk with you about it or whatever. And just as passionate on in my opinion, just as passionate about the fact that a person should not be convicted and be held responsible, because I think that's the basis of our morality, is that you are responsible for what you do and you cause.
Your behavior.
Right. Your behavior. Right. He didn't enter the Capitol. He never beat anybody. He never hit anybody. He never told anybody to go and hurt or hit or do anything to anybody. Right.
Sure.
He didn't tell anybody, hey, we're gathering for an insurrection. He didn't organize. None of that. Right. All he did was he gave a political speech that is questionable. And Donald Trump has been giving questionable political speeches
and tweets
for as long as I can remember, right? Especially since he started his political career. And to actually take away a person's right, and I think the right to actually run and serve in a political office is a significant right. You have to have due process of law. That means you have to have the ability to be heard, to argue your case. And there are certain evidentiary standards that need to be met when you do that. And you need to, and a lot of the stuff that I presented would never actually be allowed in a criminal trial against this man, because if you notice the White House aide that I presented,
had a lot of videos about,
yeah, a lot of videos about, she was testifying to not what Donald Trump said. She was testifying to what other people said Donald Trump said. That is definition of hearsay, right? Just about. So all that stuff would be excluded, and it's excluded because over almost 400 years of English common law that came to the United States was developed, and it has been upheld for 400 years.
It's not deemed as reliable.
It is not reliable.
And it's not subject to cross-examination.
That's right. And so you cannot convict a person of a crime based on that because it's unjust. It's not right. And a government will fall apart, a society will fall apart, a culture will fall apart if you can't go to the court of law and get some form of justice. And it's been recognized for 400 years that allowing he said, she said, and I heard come into an issue where you're taking a right away from somebody, that a person will have a pit of injustice that is so deep and so angry and so, I guess, motivating.
Sure.
They say they will not recognize themselves. I am not a part of the United States. I am not an American, because they were treated this way in the justice system. And that's the whole purpose of it. And like I said, I've always said my biggest problem with Trump is that he was a little reckless in the way he talked about our institutions, whether it's freedom of the press, whether it's the judicial system and stuff. That's been my biggest problem with him throughout, right? Because I think those institutions, they've lasted for a long time. Anytime anybody assails them, they better deserve it. And I think for the most part, the ones that deserve it might be the press.
Sure.
Right? But I think that's in part on the consumer too, though, because you need to recognize, do you like what you hear? And that's why, you tune in, right? Or are you actually trying to go out and listen to a different point of view and actually be educated and say, you know what? I'm going to be open-minded to this. I'm going to be open-minded to this argument, right? So that you can actually clearly see what's going on, right? And I think that is a very good thing for me when I went to law school, to have to argue the other side of a case.
Sure.
And it was that I could see that the truth lies, somewhere in the middle. So ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please comment on, the two sides, and let us know, not necessarily who you agree with, but whether or not you were swayed one way or the other from your original position, whether or not you had any sort of insight about, okay, yeah, I originally wanted to say Donald Trump, was, engaged in no matter what.
Sure.
But after I heard what you talked about, whether or not you changed your opinion. So please comment and let us know what you'd like us to talk about next time. So thank y'all for tuning in.
Enjoyed it.